Hey there! Welcome to On That Note, the official podcast of Sound Chamber Records and Maryville Music Academy. I'm your host, Jerry Martin, and around here, we're all about music, mentorship, and meaningful conversation. All right, let's mention a few songs that you've recorded so far. Some are originals and some are collaborations. So let's go with Lovebirds, Open Your Heart, Belong, Heaven Sent, and Call My Name. Okay, so out of all of those, which one really resonates with you right now?
So definitely, hands down, my answer to that is my song Belong. It is my newest release that came out on February 27th. It is such a personal song. It's so meaningful to me. And I remember it actually took a good year or so for me to write that song because I had the time to write the song. And so I just allowed the verses to come to me kind of piecemeal over time. And I'll never forget, I finished the song after watching a documentary. It was the Louis Capaldi documentary. I watched that on a Friday night. And then after watching that late at night, I stayed up for something like 4 hours that night finishing the song. I thought, ooh, the time has come to get the rest of these verses in place. And I did it. And I was just, I was on a roll. I was feeling super inspired. It was a good experience.
Today's guest is an artist whose music feels intimate, thoughtful, and deeply expressive. And that's AnnaBelle Swift. AnnaBelle's sound blends folk, Americana, with some jazz influences, creating songs that feel both timeless and personal. She has already released multiple singles and continues to write and shape her upcoming body of work. AnnaBelle, welcome to the On That Note podcast. We're really glad you're here.
Hi, Jerry. Thank you so much for having me here. It's so nice to be here in the studio with you. We always have such good conversations.
That's right.
So I know that will continue right now, right here.
That's right. Let's just jump into it, okay?
Sure.
Let's start with you telling us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and a little bit of that musical upbringing. How did that look like when you were growing up?
So I live here in East Tennessee, just a few short hours away from Nashville, which I think is super cool. What a convenient place to live. Never knew that I would end up living so close to the country music capital of the world. Even though I don't necessarily sing country, who knows, someday. I'm very open to how my artistry will develop and evolve, but I'm super excited to be so close to Nashville. I really am. However, I actually was born in Germany with my whole family, all of us, all 3 siblings and me and my parents, and then we moved here. We immigrated to the United States after the Berlin Wall collapsed. So after the 1990s, we all packed up and came here, and as my parents describe it, they have always felt that America offers the most opportunities for them and their kids, and I would say that has proven true because we've got some MDs in my family and a nurse practitioner, and I myself received a JD. I have no idea how my life would have spanned or panned out if I was still in Germany. Right. Wonderful country, I'm sure, but glad to be here in America with my family and such. And, it's just funny because ever since we moved to America, we started off in Pennsylvania, and then we've stayed here on the East Coast for all these years. So I've never lived over on the West Coast. I think that would be amazing to experience someday. So we've definitely been East Coast homebodies, but I'm happy to be here living in the mountains. We've mainly lived in the mountains, although we did live in Florida for just a little while. But mostly living in the mountains here, and I mean, the nature is beautiful. I'm sure you agree. You know what it's like to live in East Tennessee.
Absolutely, yeah.
What beautiful mountain peaks we see and some amazing skies. My daughter and I were just driving home the other day, and I couldn't help but point out how beautiful the colors in the sky were, just over and over again. I kept on saying, Sophia, look at the sky now. Oh my gosh, look at those vivid colors. They look like cotton candy colors. So I just hope for any folks who live on the East Coast or in the mountainous areas, I hope they take the time and the opportunity to look at the skies every chance possible.
That's right. I mean, we live in like I said, one of the most beautiful places in the world. So sometimes it's nice to look up from your phone, just take in the natural beauty that God has for us. I mean, it's just all around us.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great scenery for inspiring or aspiring songwriters, for sure.
That is correct. So you came here to America.
Mm-hmm.
So did you have any earlier musical influences as you was growing up?
I hate to say the answer really is no, if I'm going to be fully honest with that question, because, no one in my family really became a musician, although I do have a second cousin, because he's the son of my cousin.
Right.
And he does lo-fi music and does quite well on Spotify. His name is Phil Morris Lesky. So that was really cool to discover. I never really knew growing up that he was kind of this big time or developing artist, that sort of thing. So something I really discovered a few years ago, and then I got to connect with him over. But aside from that, there really aren't any other musicians in my family. So I like to think of myself as a first-generation musician. You know, like you think of a first-generation college student.
Right.
I think of myself as a first-generation musician because I'm really embarking on this path, the first one from my family, I would say. And
Wow.
it's very exciting and very invigorating at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. Tell me, did you have any kind of, first performances, like maybe as you're growing up through maybe school? Did you have any stage work that you did, whether it's in musicals or maybe a talent show or anything like that?
Yeah, so my very first performance in my life was on a stage, not necessarily associated with school, but I remember it was with a local community theater, and it was the play The Hobbit, and I played the part of a hobbit. So I was one of the hobbits, not Bilbo Baggin, but one of the fellow hobbit creatures. And I'll never forget my dad. He loved the play and everything. He loved the role that I played in there, and he'll still bring up one of the lines to this day. It was some line, I can't remember the wording exactly, but it was where I was telling Bilbo Baggins that we were all going up the mountain. We were all very tired. And my dad to this day will repeat the line, and he loves the coughing part. Yeah. So he'll be very dramatic and theatrical about it. And I just think it's so adorable that he still brings up that line after all these years. Because I must have been in, the 4th grade when I was in that play. Okay. So it was a long, long time ago. Yeah. And then I participated in various other plays growing up as well. One of my favorites was The Secret Garden, because I got to play the lead part of Mary Lennox back then. And so it was just a really, really neat experience.
Absolutely.
But how does that all tie into singing now? Well, back then I was very new to singing and continue to be new to singing because it was something that I didn't necessarily take to back then. I just loved the acting so much. And I remember that I would force myself to audition for musical theater because there wasn't a non-musical play coming up anytime soon. And I thought, I can't wait this long to be in a non-musical play. I'm just going to do the chorus. I'm going to be in a chorus. And so I was. And so, I was in Grease and some other musical plays as well growing up. But then, of course, music really came into my life a bit later.
That's a really good thing, too, when you have that experience that young, and how you can bring that stage experience and that expression to the music that you're creating today. Tell me a little bit about that process. Do you feel that's the case as you're kind of channeling the musical theater side that brought you into acting, and now as you are starting to write more of your music, your own originals, and then perform, because you have performed several of our concerts. How does that translate together with your musical theater and now just stage performance of just as an artist, as a singer?
Well, you're right on the money. There is definitely a connection because, as you're saying, I have performed live now multiple different times. And so if you're going to be up on that stage, you better have that stage presence. You better own it up there and be comfortable enough with yourself so that your audience can feel comfortable. You never want to let them feel whatever nerves might be working in the background, that sort of thing. You want them to enjoy the performance just as you yourself, as the performer, want to enjoy what's going on.
For sure.
So having had all those experiences in childhood theater, the opportunity to develop that stage presence, I believe, does show up today in my professional performances. Good. So I'm happy to have that experience from my childhood. Yeah. I never knew that it would all develop into singing and songwriting. So what a surprise, but what a pleasant surprise.
Absolutely. And I think it's very important that you can go back into that that type of artistry and put it into something else. So it comes
that's exciting.
Yeah, it really is. All right. So speaking of that, and you talked about going into musical theater because there was not really anything other than the musicals instead of just acting. Tell me, when did you discover your own voice?
So as I was mentioning before, that all definitely came later in life. So let me back up a moment, though, and say that I am essentially a lawyer by trade, but I know I'm an artist by heart. Oh, I know that. I feel that so strongly in my heart. So I did not pursue a professional acting career or anything of that sort. I landed on becoming a lawyer, which I'll explain. The reason I wanted to become a lawyer was because I was really drawn to the performance aspect.
Yeah.
I thought it would be so fun to be in a courtroom, to be, a prosecutor or a defense counsel, something of that sort, and to be able to use my wits. That really, that clicked with me, and that intrigued me. And I thought, okay, that sounds like fun.
Yeah.
So I did enter the legal world. But as I have been experiencing what it's like to be a lawyer, I have to say that I've just felt this urge to really delve into my creativity.
Yeah.
So that's how all of this musical life began for me.
Mm-hmm.
So there I was, spending 8 hours a day, essentially tethered to my laptop, engaging in a lot of legal analytical writing, and I just really felt this urge to explore the world of writing a bit more. And so I remember that just lyrical verses would start coming to me. And I thought, ooh, I like that. I mean, I had never considered myself as being a songwriter before, but if that idea comes to you and it stops you dead in your tracks, you're like, okay, I'm going to work with this. I'm not going to ignore that. So I would start to type up the lyrics that were coming into my mind and make voice memos. And so that's really how this whole process started in terms of me developing into a songwriter. Yeah. And then after enough of those inspiring ideas came to me, I thought, it sure would be nice to actually sing these songs. How do I do that? And so then I dove into the world of music really head first. Right. And of course, that's how you and I met.
That's right, yeah.
Because of course you've been coaching me since then.
It's been, you've been with me for quite a long time now, so which is really good. And it's nice to see when you first came in, it's like, okay, you're kind of like, and show me what to do, tell me what to do. And when I do that, then you run with it. You run with it in full speed. And he's like, there's nothing that I can't just say, here, try this, do this, and work on this. And the next week, it's done. You have it done. So you're really focused in that aspect, which is awesome, because it does take you further along than what most people ever get. So you have that work ethic that you have from like the lawyer side of it,
Oh, yes, long days studying, particularly in preparation of exams. I don't think I even breathed during those days. And you do not want to know how big my laundry pile would get during pre-exam study times. Horror stories.
But you take that and then you apply it to actually the creativity that you have in music. And that's the key. You have to have that work ethic. I've seen so many who come in and they want to do these things, but then their work ethic is not even close. It's like, well, if you want to get to this next level, you got to do this, this, and this, and they don't want to do this, this, and this. They just want to rest on their talents alone. Well, talent alone is not going to get you to the full potential. You've really got to study. You've got to train for that. And then, like I said, then you apply that to your song, to your songwriting, because there's training in songwriting. There's training in all kinds of different things, and that's how we evolve. And we get better and better and better. And I've seen you evolve from the very first note I ever heard you sing to where you are today. And you have released, 8 singles right now. And it's amazing to watch how your body of work is shaping, and what you're doing with that. And, you're all over the world. So that's a really cool thing to see from the first time you walked into the door to where you are now. It's exciting to see
I love hearing that.
Yeah, it's really exciting to see that musical journey happen for you.
Yes. And I'll just go ahead and mention, too, for anyone who can be inspired by the story, as a lawyer, of course, I have had and continue to really have very high expectations of myself. But I promised myself that when I started this musical journey, I promised myself that I would not hold my feet to the coals. I promised myself that, I would still have standards, but I really just wanted to be open to what this journey would be like. And that has just been a precious experience. And that's what keeps me going, keeps me evolving and growing and learning, just continuing to have that open mindset. Because I don't have necessarily this preconceived notion of what my voice has to sound like or how many fans I have to have. by day one of a release, that sort of thing. I am honestly just so grateful and happy when anyone connects with my music. It makes me feel so good. It makes me feel like, yes, this is worth it. It's worth it for me to step out of my comfort zone and share my music like this. It's exciting.
It is. Before we get back to the show, we want to take a moment to share something close to our hearts. The Estelle Martin Music Foundation was created to make sure no child is turned away from music because of financial hardships. We provide scholarships, lessons, and instruments to foster youth, military families, and children in need. Music builds confidence, it creates belonging, it gives kids a voice when they don't yet have the words. If you believe every child deserves a chance to discover their gift, we invite you to partner with us. Your support doesn't just fund lessons, it changes lives. To learn more and how to give, visit the Estelle Martin Music Foundation in the show note link below, because every child deserves a song. And now, back to the On That Note podcast. And I've said this before, everybody measures success differently. Some are like, I want to be the household name. I want to make the most money. I want to do this and this. And then for some, it's like you never know what songs that you put out are who they're reaching and why they're touching them in a way, right? So the most rewarding thing for me as an artist is when you see someone come up to you and they say, hey, and it could have been a song done 10 years ago and you forgot about it. He said, hey, that song that was out on the radio, or I was listening on streaming or whatever it was, or I saw you in concert and you sang this song. That changed my life. It was a song that I needed at that time. And then we had no idea, because a lot of times if you're putting stuff on streaming and the radio, you never see those fans. You never see that connection that your music has with them until they actually come up to you, or they write you an email or whatever it is, and they let you know. It's like, wow, I never knew, but that's right there is, for me, the reward. That's the success.
Yeah, that's such amazing feedback to know that you've impacted someone so much.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what every musician should aspire to.
Absolutely.
To have that life-changing impact on even one listener. That's absolutely what music is all about. That's why I fell in love with music, because of how powerful it is, how it does change lives and heal people and bring them up in their darkest moments.
That's right.
Music can be that companion. I know it has been for me.
Yeah.
It's gotten me through quite a few dark days, that sort of thing, when I'm feeling particularly overwhelmed or stressed by all the workloads.
Yeah.
Yes, music is phenomenal.
It really is. Well, let's talk a little bit about your music. We're talking about, blending folk music, Americana, and that little spice of jazz that you have in there, right? So tell me, how did that come about for you because in today's world, it's not just like you're one thing. You can mesh these together and create your own genre, so to speak. It used to be like, okay, if you sing country music, you're a country artist. If you sing rock, you're a rock artist. If you're gospel, you're just gospel. There's so many things up underneath that. You got folk music, but who's in folk music? Well, you listen to those artists, and who are their music influences are, right? And they may not be in folk. It may be something else. So that kind of just shapes that. So how was that process for you?
So really, in my journey, as I had mentioned before, I really didn't have any preconceived notions as to what my voice would even automatically or ultimately sound like, or even what genre I would settle in. So I have just stayed very open-minded to what just naturally shows up. And as I was mentioning before, the songwriting began because lyrics would start popping up in my head, and I would recognize, this sounds cool, I like that. So yeah, let me make a little voice memo or note or whatnot, because I don't want to forget. That's all part of the capturing process. So I knew going in that I would figure out what felt the best for my voice and my body. And I do believe, the folk genre is what I feel most comfortable with at this point. So I've been told that my musical taste is very similar to John Denver's, and I absolutely can see that because he has a very soft, sweet-natured spirit to him. that I believe resides in me as well. But the jazz influence came, I would say, because my very first release, which was a cover song, was Come Away With Me by Norah Jones. And that song, of course, is a jazz song. And I had decided to sing that song because I just thought that it presented this awesome opportunity for me to play around with creating a cover song. So it was a wonderful developmental song for me to sing. Because maybe 10 years ago, I never thought that I could sing that song at all. I didn't think I could emulate Norah Jones's voice or even any version of it in my own voice. So I was super excited to learn that song and to make it into my own. That was so much fun. Yeah. But so her song is a jazz song, and so I've just kept that jazz influence with me this whole time, and we'll see how that continues to play out in the rest of my music.
Yeah, I agree. And you have already released, like I said, several songs. And you continue to write for future projects. So what have you learned about yourself through the songs that you've released so far?
This has been such a wonderful journey, being a singer-songwriter. I love it so much. It gives me so much joy and peace in my life. But I would say that becoming a musician like this has absolutely opened me up to learning myself. I feel like I've found myself as a person through this journey. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to mention this certain artist, Joy Oladokin. She's a wonderful artist. I started following her on social media, and I saw this post where she wrote about how she finally is becoming the artist she always wanted to be. And I connected with that line so much because I keep on thinking, I'm finally becoming the person I want to be as an artist. I've grown up being very introverted and shy, not exactly comfortable coming out of my shell, but as an artist, I open myself up to the world, and I explore the world so much more now, and I present myself in a warm, what I hope feels is warm and inviting and sincere. And that's why I say I'm becoming the person I always wanted to be.
You are, yeah. And it's a wonderful thing. You can do it through music. That brings that out to you. Yeah. It
does. It absolutely has. And it has been, a slow transition, which is absolutely what I was looking for. Mm-hmm. So just this very nice, gentle, easing process that I've been going through, song by song.
Yeah, and I tell my students all the time, when they first get in here, I said, we're not going for a sprint, it's a marathon. Mm-hmm. And slow and steady, that's what you need to be doing to not just build your voice, but to build, yourself. It's because you are evolving. Each time you come in, you're learning something, and you're trying different things, being creative, and seeing what works and what doesn't. And that's the whole part of the process. And there's no reason to rush it, because if you do, then you're missing out on a whole lot of things.
Absolutely. And I personally, one of my vows to myself is I never want to put myself in a position that I'm really not ready for. I mean, as excited as I am about the prospect of having lots of fans, I know if I'm not really ready for that, I do not need to be pushing myself into that arena or that platform. And I will remain patient and just continue to develop and grow myself until I'm
the smart way to
ready.
Do it. Yeah. All right, let's mention a few songs that you've recorded so far. Some are originals and some are collaborations. So let's go with Lovebirds, Open Your Heart, Belong, Heaven Sent, and Call My Name. Okay, so out of all of those, which one really resonates with you right now?
So definitely, hands down, my answer to that is my song Belong. It is my newest release that came out on February 27th. It is such a personal song. It's so meaningful to me. And I remember it actually took a good year or so for me to write that song because I had the time. I had the time to write the song. And so I just allowed the verses to come to me kind of piecemeal over time. And I'll never forget, I finished the song after watching a documentary. It was the Louis Capaldi documentary. I watched that on a Friday night. And then after watching that late at night, I stayed up for something like 4 hours that night finishing the song. I thought, ooh, the time has come to get the rest of these verses in place. And I did it. And I was just, I was on a roll. I was feeling super inspired.
Yeah, and it came together really well, too. I'm very proud of that song as well. I think it's one of your best songs that you have released so far. It's just a great song. Tell me this. The actual title of your album, because we're still writing for that album, is Messages of Hope and Inspiration, Music for the Soul. How did you come up with that title?
So just like my song lyrics, that title came to me as well. And I recognized, that would be a nice Album title. That's some good material. But then I think what really confirmed or solidified that title in my mind was that I ended up going to this conference, the Suzanne Giesemann conference. She's an author. And I bought her book that weekend, and guess what the name of her book was? Messages of Hope.
Yeah.
And I thought, ooh, this might be a sign for the universe. I'm not going to ignore this.
Yeah, for sure.
And I thought, but I need to have a title that's slightly different from hers at least. So
Right.
I thought, okay, we're going to add the Messages of Hope, music for the soul.
Yeah. And I think it ties in very well with all the songs that you're writing and the songs that you've even covered. And we're talking about cover songs. You've done Imagine, and you've done When You Say Nothing at All, and you have mentioned before, Come Away With Me. How do you enjoy the interpretation of a song that's written by somebody else? What's the process of you stepping into that story to also really relate your emotions in that?
Well, it is really fun to do a cover song. And I think what I appreciate most about the process of singing a cover song is you already have that reference point that you can play around with. And that's the fun part, that you get to play around with the tune. I mean, you're pretty much going to stick to the same lyrics, essentially, but you get to play around with how to actually express the lyrics line by line. And that's what I enjoyed so much about Come Away With Me. I was experimenting with bravados and some really high notes at some points, swells, that sort of thing. Same thing with Imagine. I was experimenting with swells. But I just love that opportunity to make changes. I don't want to say improvements because those songs are all really special on their own, but just personalized changes that I wanted to try out and experiment with.
You, as an artist, you want to make them put your own little twist to that so it becomes yours as well. Because they're great songs as they stand on their own, so there's nothing wrong with, hey, this is my artistry, this is how I interpret it, and then you release it like that, so which is really awesome.
Yeah, those were really positive experiences. And I loved singing Imagine in particular, and actually taking a male voice, John Lennon's voice, and turning that into my own little female voice. Yeah,
I think it turned out great. All right, so now here comes a segment. We're going to have fun with this. We call it Rapid Round. And it's one answer. You can expand if you need to. It's totally fine. And I'm just going to fire off some questions, real short questions, and then you just give me the answer, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Here we go. Lyrics or melody first?
Lyrics.
Writing alone or collaborating?
I would like to say both, but at this point, writing alone, merging into collaborating for the future.
Okay. All right. Folk, Americana, or jazz influences? Which is the most you gravitate towards?
Folk influences.
Okay. Studio or a live room?
Studio.
Morning writing or late nights?
Morning writing. Ooh, when your mind is fresh and clear and you've got that energy from having slept well, hopefully.
Yeah. Right. Favorite songwriter right now?
Alanis Morissette. She may not be as active as she used to be, but I still cling to her.
Yeah, great. One song that feels most like you?
I have to go back to my song Belong because it represents exactly where I'm at in this stage of my musical journey.
Yeah, that's perfect. All right. Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Your dream venue?
I would so love to travel to the Grand Opera House in Sydney, Australia. I've never been to Australia before, but one of these days that would be amazing.
Yeah,
so.
That would be awesome. Okay, last question. It's a fill in the blank. Music helps you blank.
Feel alive.
Wow, fantastic, yeah. All right, so we have one more question, and we always ask this at the very end of the interview. When everything around you feels noisy or demanding, what brings you back to the heart of why you create music?
Music is absolutely my anchoring point. It's what keeps me steady amongst all the storms of daily living. And it's something that I know is absolutely worth investing in. So as an independent artist, you, of course, are responsible for taking on all of the expenses that come along with that, which it's really neat to basically be the CEO of your own little business.
That's correct.
But certainly there's a workload that comes with all of that.
There is.
But I know that the investment is worth it because creating music and being creative like this gives me so much joy. And it's so exciting to be able to share the work product with the world and to know that my music will find a home. It may not happen overnight or even next week or next month, but down the road, my music will find the correct listeners, and that makes this process absolutely worth it.
Absolutely, yes. And do you have anything else you want to say to our listeners out there who are listening to the podcast and maybe wanting to do something like you're doing?
So know that even if you didn't start out as a musician or even grow up in a musical world, you can still enter the music world later on in life, just like I have, and know too that whatever skills you've developed along the way, that those absolutely can transfer over. So I like to call them transferable skills. And so, for example, for my story, being a lawyer, I already walked into the music world with this great sense of discipline and work ethic and writing ability, and all of those skills are showing up day by day in all of my musical pursuits and endeavors. And know that all of your skills that you've already developed up until this day, if you're later on in life like I am, those have prepared you as well. So then it's just about finding where you are passionate in the music world and opening your mind to what's possible for you too.
Anna, thank you so much for coming on to the On That Note podcast. We have really enjoyed having you here. And what's next for you?
Continuing to write songs and promote my music and hopefully enter the sync world. That is an ultimate goal of mine.
There you go. Good deal. Good deal. On That Note is the official podcast of Sound Chamber Records and Marable Music Academy. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who loves music just as much as you do. We've got some more amazing artists, stories, and behind-the-scenes moments coming your way, so stay tuned. And on that note, we'll see you next time.